Hello everyone, Dr. Suneel Dhand, internal medicine physician. Welcome to another video. Those of you who follow me regularly know that I'm not a big fan of organized medicine by any stretch of the imagination. That's a true understatement. I believe the medical profession is completely lost. I think the medical paradigm is completely broken. And I believe that our current batch of medical leaders, especially the ones you see on TV, the heads of our current organizations, bring great shame on the principles of Hippocrates and what it means to be a really good doctor. Because those of us who have had our eyes opened, particularly over the last few years, have seen that it's not so much about following the medicine and following the science, it's about following the agenda. And I was hopeful that maybe after what happened during the disastrous pandemic response and the backlash from millions of members of the general public, that maybe doctors would have learned their lesson. Alas, I was wrong, because this is reflected in a social media trend that we've seen over the last few days, and this solidifies, in my mind, how terrifying our current batch of doctors are and the way that they think. It is so broken, and it has an authoritarian streak. Take a look at this. So here we have an article published in MedPage Today, one of the major medical publications online. Physicians flock to Bluesky, hoping to leave X behind. Many compare it to the early days of Twitter. Now, I am quite active on Twitter. I know many of you already follow me on Twitter, and I think that Elon Musk buying the platform and initiating true free speech is one of the best things to happen to free speech in the Western world for a long time. But clearly, a lot of doctors don't agree with that. They want to leave Twitter because they don't like the open policy where they can get criticized, where they are challenged. Let's read on. In the wake of the presidential election, physicians have been flocking to the social media platform Bluesky, asserting there's now a critical mass of medical professionals engaging on the site. Many told MedPage Today that Bluesky resembles Twitter in its early days, when they considered it a place for sharing and discussing medical science. Well, there you go right there, as Twitter was a few years ago, where you would be cancelled if you asked any questions whatsoever. Doctors want to go back to those days where they're not challenged, where they can talk about what they call the science. We all know what the science really means. Bluesky reminds me of what Twitter felt like in 2018 or 2019 or early in the pandemic, said a critical care physician in Seattle who is active on Bluesky. Less hateful, less political, and more just medical professionals talking about medical stuff. Ah, yes, the early days of the pandemic, when authoritarianism ruled, when doctors were telling people what to do, where no questions were allowed. You would be thrown off social media sites if you dared ask questions. We all know the type of science these types of doctors really want. They want authoritarian science where the agenda is followed, no questions at all, and they are seeking a safe spot to do that again, away from Twitter now, where they might be challenged. All along, I thought Bluesky was the best alternative, but it was hard to get enough people to go over there, to have enough conversations, to make it an interesting replacement, said a neurosurgeon from Milwaukee. But with the election, I think a lot of people who were on the fence decided to make the switch. Here's another statement. The trajectory seems promising, especially for physicians, as the network has grown a ton and journals and professional societies have started joining. This gives me some optimism, as the best part of MedTwitter to me was always a mix of professional and personal networking, friendships, etc. And then they talk about the growth of Bluesky, which crossed 20 million users. And the article goes on to talk about how Bluesky is managed, and they have some more statements here. Feels like Twitter in 2014. Lots of engagement, good discussion, no ads, no right-wing conspiracy, nobody who's asking questions about the shots. And at least they do mention the downside, that this is a complete echo chamber. Well, look at that. Doctors, especially academic doctors, I'm sure, fleeing away from Twitter. Shall I tell you what's actually happened? If you look statistically, Twitter is now broadly reflective of the population, where you get a 50-50 mix of political views. That's as it should be. Studies have actually shown this. Whereas 4 or 5 years ago, Twitter was more lopsided. It was 70% one way, and we all know what that way was. And those were the days that the doctors are referring to, where they were not challenged, where questions were not asked, where they would say absolutely ridiculous things without being challenged. And if you dared ask the wrong questions, you were immediately censored. Bluesky to me sounds like quite an insufferable place. From what I've heard, it's a place where if you ask any challenging questions at all, you immediately get thrown off. It is a true echo chamber. And doesn't it scare you that doctors would want that? They want to be in a place where they don't get asked any questions, where they can just completely spout complete and utter nonsense. These are the people who are in charge of your health. Think about that for a moment. They are happier in an echo chamber than being asked questions, when the opposite should actually be true. A doctor who is true to the principles of Hippocrates should love being asked questions. I personally love it when people challenge me, even in my professional job when I'm in the hospital, and people come up to me and they ask me questions, a patient or a family member. The longer the list, the better. I want to be challenged. I want people to have their questions answered. And if there are any concerns, I want to hear those concerns. I don't want things to be censored. And even at another level, when I'm online, I welcome questions. I don't want to hide what I say and be in a safe space. This is very concerning indeed. But again, coming back to Bluesky, it sounds like a truly insufferable place. It sounds like a place where, at least as far as medicine is concerned, it is a bunch of woke doctors who are whinging and crying. And if they hear anything that they don't like, they immediately censor that person. In fact, I may have to make an alias account. Maybe I'll call myself Suneel the Woke and join, just for pure comedy value, because I do find it funny in a way that these people who are doctors, and I consider any doctor a public figure in many ways, that they want to hide in their own echo chamber. I do hope that more people actually join Bluesky, perhaps under alias names, and follow many of these doctors. In fact, I might do this as well, and take screenshots of what they're saying and share it on other social media platforms like Twitter. Because why should these doctors hide in their echo chamber? They've got a very responsible job. I don't want to hide my views. My views are all out there, and I don't mind if people challenge me for what I say at all. This is a very worrying development, but I can see that this is a huge trend over the last couple of weeks in particular. Doctors, medical journals, I'm sure physician societies will head over there because what they want is complete rule. Again, this gets to that authoritarian streak in medicine, and it really does terrify me as a doctor myself, why they would need to do this. Groupthink, I assure you, is a very bad thing in medicine and science, and ultimately patients will suffer. I'm a doctor. I can look at data myself. I can judge in a second what is complete nonsense being spouted by another doctor or a medical authority. But patients out there don't have that luxury, and we have some very bad apples in medicine. And I leave you with this one simple thought. Take the last 10 years. I know things have changed since Elon Musk took over Twitter, but one group of people left social media platforms because they were censored. The other group of people left social media platforms because they couldn't censor. I leave you with that one thought. Thanks everyone for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Check out my website, my health programs, and my free newsletter. Those links are down below. Hit the like button if you like this video and the subscribe button for more similar videos in the future. We will speak again very soon.